5/25/77. Anybody know what that date means? I'm sure at least a few of you do, because I'm sure that I have at least a handful of geeks and or nerds watching this channel. 5/25/77 is the date that the original Star Wars movie was released. And the movie that I'm talking about today, 5/25/77, is about that. But it's about so much more than that. 5/25/77 is the story of a young aspiring filmmaker, Patrick Reed Johnson. It is a true story about how Pat Johnson got to see an early preview cut of Star Wars before the effects were even finished, before the John Williams score was even added. He saw it something like 4 months or a month or whatever, 2 months I believe it was, now that I think about it, right before it was released to the general public in 1977. And this aspiring filmmaker made a movie about getting to see this and how it inspired him to become a filmmaker in and of itself. But that's the thing, because Star Wars spurred that, but the story actually starts long before that, in 1968, when a young Patrick Johnson saw 2001: A Space Odyssey at the age of 8 years old, and he understood the ending. I remember I was probably 11 or 12 when I saw 2001 the first time, and I loved that movie from the moment I saw it. But part of that had to do with the fact that I loved anything with practical effects, and the effects of that movie are out of this world to this day. But I remember as a child definitely grappling with what the hell the ending meant. But the more times I watched it over the years, because that movie was a conundrum to me for multiple reasons. Not just because I didn't quite understand the ending, but also because I kept going back to it. I probably saw that movie 6 or 7 times within the course of the first year that I saw it. And the reason was because I kept going back to it, hoping to discover and understand more about it. And by the time I finally got it, like it clicked, I remember thinking, wow, this movie is really deep. It's really cool. The reason I bring this up is because Pat Johnson had that experience too, and you can see it in this film, because 2001 is what made him say, I want to be a filmmaker. And from that point on, he started making films in his backyard. And then, because his mother could see his passion, she contacted someone out in Hollywood in hopes that they could, just do something to help him. And that's how he wound up getting to see that early screening of Star Wars. I'm not going to spoil the entire thing. I feel like I've already spoiled too much, quite honestly. But encapsulated in all of this is some stuff from 1976, the year before Star Wars came out, and some stuff in 1977, all of which takes place in a young 17-year-old's, playground, that being school and friends. It's got strong American Graffiti vibes, which also a George Lucas production. How funny is that? It is such a great coming-of-age movie about a person with a passion trying to figure out a way to live his passion. And I know that sounds like an odd way to describe it, but I feel like that might be the most appropriate way. Now, the thing of it is I have a long history with this film. Not because I was involved in any way, but because this movie sat on the shelf since like 2007 and only just saw a release this year. You can get it on various streaming platforms. You can also buy the physical version on DVD or Blu-ray. I opted for the Blu-ray. I absolutely love this film, but I've been waiting to see this film since 2007. If you do a search on YouTube right after you watch this video, you'll come across trailers from 13 years ago. You'll come across trailers from 5 years ago. And the thing of it is each trailer sells this movie differently. I do think that the most recent trailer, the one that they released right before right before the movie finally came out, probably sells it best, at least in my opinion. I do think that the original trailers probably cut the best. Just my opinion. But the thing is this movie is about anyone who's ever had a passion and wanted to live that passion as a career. And Pat Johnson got to do that. You've probably heard, well, depending on your age, you've probably heard or seen at least a few things he's been involved with. One of my favorite coming-of-age teen dramas, well, this is now up there as a favorite coming-of-age teen drama. I absolutely loved this movie. But the movie Angus from 1995 is right up there with this movie for being one of my favorite teen movies of all time. And he directed that movie, Angus. He also worked on the script for that movie. He also did a movie that I loved as a child called Space Invaders, which, knowing what I know now from having watched 5/25/77, I go, of course he was going to write and direct something like Space Invaders. This is the same kind of movie he would have been trying to make in his backyard all those years ago. And somehow seeing the connection between Space Invaders, Angus, Star Wars, 2001, all these things that meant so much to me, makes me appreciate and love this movie as even more than I thought I would when I first saw the trailer all those years ago. If you haven't seen or heard of 5/25/77, I highly recommend you go out and watch it right now. I'm almost welling up thinking about how good this movie was. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm your host, Son of Kane, and I'll see you at the video store.